Ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi ake ana te atakura he hio, he huka, he hauhu tihei Māori ora. I've got apologies from Councillor Connolly.
It's just Councillor Saw, not here. We don't have an apology.
From
Councillor Saw is here.
No, she's materialised. Good morning, Councillor Saw. So I move in a second for the apology, Councillor Nash and Councillor Labour. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed? No. Right. Conflict of interest declarations. None. Thank you very much. Public participation. Gavin Beattie. Morning, Gavin. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Come up to the right. Yeah, it's turned on for you. So you've got 5 minutes. Oh, jack up the chair on the bottom.
Yeah.
That's not our intention to.
This one there?
There you go. Yeah.
Lowering me.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Raising, no, it shouldn't go beyond my status, I know. So, good morning, everyone. Morena. I have made a written submission in the earlier preliminary process, which introduces myself, gives you a little bit of the background. So I presume that has been circulated. So I'm not intending to read it, and it does sort of give you a little background as to my interest. I was with the Local Government Commission for a long time and with DIA, but it's all there. So I'd like to begin by just posing a question for you relating to the representation review, and that is, why has Greater Wellington adopted STV, and which it will use again for 2025? So it's a rhetorical question really at this stage, but that's the question I want to leave with you. I assume it's something to do with better or maybe more diverse representation of communities of interest making up the region. And if so, I pose another question. How much diversity do you think has been achieved since 2013 when Greater Wellington first adopted STV? So undoubtedly, STV can achieve more diverse representation, or put another way, proportional representation of communities of interest, which I believe goes a long way in helping achieve the requirement in the Local Electoral Act for effective representation of communities of interest. But this will not happen automatically. I think it needs three conditions at least. One are the electoral arrangements which will best facilitate proportional representation of communities of interest. Secondly, candidates understand how STV works best, particularly relating to the quota, for example. And thirdly, electors understand how STV works, and this certainly needs more public education and information, no question. But clearly, I'm just referring to the first question about the electoral arrangements. So as stated in the officer's report, to gain the full benefits of proportional representation under STV, 5 to 7 members is preferable for constituencies using STV. And below 3 members, the benefits of proportional representation are not realised. So translating this into the 7 scenarios in your report, I'm recommending the Council adopt scenario 5, with 4 general constituencies electing 13 councillors, along with 1 Māori constituency electing 1 councillor. So that is a Wairarapa constituency electing 1 councillor, a Kapiti Coast constituency electing 1 councillor, a combined Hutt Valley constituency electing 4 councillors, and a combined Wellington Porirua constituency electing 7 councillors. While the requirements of STV work best apply to the whole region, including the Wairarapa and Kapiti Coast, as I argue in my submission, I believe there's a good case to be made for the retention of single-member Wairarapa and Kapiti Coast constituencies. This is on the basis of these being distinct communities of interest geographically, which reinforces a sense of identity with the area and also functionally, such as with river catchments, for example. Both have been recognised as distinct communities of interest since 1989, and I think the case can still be made for their retention, notwithstanding the plus or minus 10% fair representation rule. However, in relation to firstly the Hutt Valley, a 4-member constituency is close to the ideal of 5 to 7 members for proportional representation. I note each of the 4 Hutt Valley seats would represent approximately 25% of the seats, obviously 1 out of 4. To address possible concerns from Upper Hutt has approximately 30% of the combined population. It is 30% vis-a-vis 25% of one seat being 25%. i.e. local electors could still elect a local representative if they so choose. But interestingly, young people, for example, say 18 to 35-year-olds, could comprise approximately 25% also of that combined Hutt Valley population. 25% vis-a-vis one seat being 25%. And similarly with other communities of interest, while they don't comprise 25% of the population, I still believe they have a better chance of being elected, being closer to the 25%. And the same argument applies with Wellington and Porirua. With 5 to 7 members, one seat is 14%. Porirua has 20% of the population, vis-a-vis one seat being 14%. So the same argument applies there in Wellington, Porirua. So in conclusion, I come back to my question, why has Greater Wellington adopted STV? What is it trying to achieve? If it is serious about seeking to achieve greater diversity in its representation, I strongly recommend adoption of scenario 5 with 13 general constituent councillors elected from 4 constituencies. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nash.
Just give it a moment.
Oh,
You're all right. Kia ora everyone. Kia ora. Thank you, Gavin, for this and for your submission. Just thinking, with the current Porirua Tawa constituency, we guarantee representation from Porirua Tawa. In your scenario that you're suggesting, you wouldn't guarantee it, but as you've just said, you expect that it would occur because of the population. But I guess you would have to acknowledge there would be a risk that you wouldn't. I mean, given the quality of our Porirua Tawa candidates in the past, I think it's very unlikely that one wouldn't be elected from there, but there would be a risk, right?
what I was saying, I was relating to Porirua as Porirua, not Porirua Tawa. So Porirua by itself has 20% of the combined population. So Porirua, if that's what their local electors wanted, they could easily get one local candidate. I know Tawa has gone back and forward a little bit in terms of Wellington constituencies, given the catchment issue. But Porirua itself would be guaranteed if that's what the local people wanted.
If that's what the people wanted,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
if the
it's
other
their
conditions.
choice.
But again, you said there's a lack of understanding from electors around STV, and that's an issue.
Yeah.
So we can't guarantee that that's just going to be overcome. I guess I'm saying there is a risk, right? That if you don't guarantee representation for Porirua through your electoral arrangements, you could end up with no representation directly from Porirua.
Yeah. My point is that what are you trying to achieve, though? Is it just about local place-based representation, or do you want more diversity, e.g. younger people, ethnic communities, Māori who are not on the Māori roll, and there's almost 50% of Māori are not on the Māori roll, and they would be have a better chance over a large area, is my argument.
I think there's a good argument. It's just you've got to acknowledge the risk that you would end up with no dedicated Porirua representative.
Well, Porirua still has 20% of the combined population, and it's in electors' hands if they want to use that to elect a local candidate. And a local candidate could just campaign in Porirua, given it's got 20% of the population.
Councillor Saw.
Morena koutou, thank you so much for your presentation and being the first public participant being live streamed in our council chamber. We're talking about, I guess, the electoral systems and how we choose to organise our constituencies, but what I wanted to pick up on, particularly from your experience and your interest in this, and you touched on it a little bit, what would be some actions, I guess, we could take to encourage or improve participation in local government elections? What would you see as some things on your wish list that you could improve participation, improve awareness? Because as I think Councillor Nash has pointed out, we could do this, but given the lack of understanding and some of those barriers, are there some other actions we should take first before rejigging our constituencies? So interested to know what some of the other factors are.
Thank you, Councillor. I've actually just made some input into, you may be aware LGNZ have got an electoral reform group. I've made some comments just along that they're looking exactly at that. I mean, there's a range of things I think really, I personally, and this is getting a little bit off the topic, I guess, I think the Electoral Commission could well have a role at the national level about publicity information about local elections, given it already has a presence. Some people think the Electoral Commission is involved somehow beyond just enrolment anyway. And so, and including with STV, I think obviously there's a case for national information and education about STV, and I think the Electoral Commission is well placed to do that. But there are a range. I mean, I think that the simple, easiest thing is to actually make the Electoral Commission responsible for more education and public at a national level to complement local initiatives. But I could go on, but I'm sure you're short of time.
2 elections ago, I think it was at 36% turnout for the local body, and I think 43 that I read recently. The last one, just following on from what Councillor Saw said, I know that Councillor Connolly's not here, but I do feel, so I'm from the Hutt Valley. I live in Wainemata, which is the biggest ward, has provided the last, as you know, has provided the last 2 mayors, and generally if you get support from Wainemata, you're a big chance to get elected. Everybody kind of knows and understands that. And also just a follow on from what Councillor Nash alluded to is, you know, are we running the risk of not being able to preserve the integrity of place-based? You know, like I'm thinking if an aggressive group came in with a lot of money and a smart marketing plan, they could get 4 people elected from Lower Hutt. And I'm just thinking, how would you go? You know, is that a victory for democracy or not? You know, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I understand completely what you're saying. But you know, the danger is we lose that representation, and we lose that local voice. And if you go back, I don't know if you recall, back in 1989, there was uproar, absolute uproar in Wainemata over the loss of the borough council, and similarly in Petone as well. And I just wonder whether if we took your concept to its logical conclusion, we were inviting a repeat of history. That was all.
I don't see it makes a significant difference. I mean, Lower Hutt has got 3 councillors now. They were just as susceptible to your big, well-resourced campaign now to influence 3. Why more so 4? I mean, you know, and so yeah, I'm not quite sure I follow the extension from the present arrangements of 3 and 1 as opposed to 4 in the Hutt Valley.
Thank you. And 24. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Saw and Councillor Laban. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Paper passed. Confirmation of the public excluded minutes of the council meeting on the 27th of June 24. Councillor Staples and Councillor Kirk Bernand. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Paper passed. Thank you. Confirmation of the restricted public excluded minutes of the council meeting on the 27th of June 2024. All those in favour, moved by Councillor Cook Bernand, seconded by Councillor Bassett. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Paper passed. Item 7, confirmation of the public minutes of the council meeting on the 30th of July 2024. Councillor Saw and Councillor Rawpata, are you giving me the eye? Okay. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Paper passed. Right. Item 8, Māori constituency matters. Right.
Ata Māori, councillors.
In your hands.
The report before you today sets out the recommendations of the Te Tiritio Waitangi Committee. I don't think we have any other introductory comments at this stage, so happy to move into any questions you might have.
It's a fatal flaw in this environment, isn't it, Councillor Saul? Right, questions. We have been through this at the Te Tiritio Waitangi Committee, so you should be all au fait with what's on the table. If there are no questions, Councillor Ropata, would you like to move? Do you have a seconder for this? Councillor Laban. Thank you. Do either of you wish to speak to the paper? The world has to hear you, Ken.
Live and exclusive.
It's like Sky, really.
Only that those of us that have been sitting around the table for a while, that have been involved in a number of debates over the years, can be very proud of the stance that we have taken. It is one thing to constantly talk about the need for representation and fairness and justice and equality. It's another thing to make a move on a significant position and a significant paper for us to implement and affect that change. Very proud to support the paper and very proud to be part of this current council that unanimously supported it at the previous meeting.
Can't wait. Thank you. Anybody else? No. If there are no other speakers, can I move that paper? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? None. Paper passed unanimously. Thank you. The initial representation proposal for 2025 triennial local elections. Francis, in your hands.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to bring you this report today. It's a opportunity for the council to make a key first statutory step in the process of determining the basis for the 2025 elections through adopting its initial representation proposal. As you're aware, through the statutory change, this is coming to you later than was initially scheduled, and we are following the council will be following the shortened representation review process set out through the new legislation. That's probably all I wish to say as introductory comments, and happy to take any questions.
Really just follows on from the public participation that we've just had. We have a proposal in front of us. Has everybody got a copy of that, Francis? Yeah. Okay. With a mover in Councillor Staples and Councillor Bassett, are you able to bring that up onto the screen? Effectively, as I understand it, this approach stays with the status quo, largely on the basis that the primary council areas, territorial authority areas in the region, with the exception of Wairarapa, where there is people just haven't been making babies fast enough. Every area gets represented, some degree of representation, more guaranteed, notwithstanding the fact that that doesn't, as a consequence, fully employ the benefits of STV. So, on the basis of what you have in front of you, Councillor Staples, Councillor Bassett, do either of you wish to speak to the paper?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Firstly, I'd like to thank our officers for all the work that they've done on this paper and our own workshop. I mean, it hasn't been taken lightly, and what is being recommended to us, I believe, has been thoroughly chewed over. I do believe that it's an appropriate arrangement under the current regulations. Excuse me. And I do believe that it is appropriate that we recognise place-based representation. And with Councillor Nash's comment that there is a risk that in the case of different representation that we may not have place-based. And sitting at the regional council table for a few years now, I absolutely get that the different parts of our region are quite different. Even Upper Hutt to Lower Hutt, you know, people say it's all the same. It actually isn't. Porirua, Kapiti, Wairarapa, Wellington City, there's all, I don't know, they just all have their little quirks, which I think is important to have represented around this table. You will all know that my one area, my little gripe, is Wairarapa, where I represent 75% of the land area of the Wellington region. And I totally get the fact that under the current regulations, we're only allocated one councillor. But when you take the Wairarapa region, it is the only part of our region that has 3 TAs that I have to work with, 3 community boards, numerous catchment and flood schemes that if you want to be a good local representative, you need to go to. And often I can't because it clashes with something I have to do over here. So initially I thought I couldn't support this politically, but with the 7th recommendation of writing to the local government minister asking that the regulations be looked at so that we can actually look at representation in Wairarapa aside from the population, I feel that I can live with these recommendations and support them. So that's all from me, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bassett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of general comments. First of all, thanks to the officers. I know this is a you're damned if you do and if you're damned if you don't, and I do understand that. Good paper. I want to support the comments that Councillor Laban has said in relation to the Hutt Valley, particularly to have a representative in the Upper Hutt. I think that's important, and as Councillor Staples has said, there is a difference between the two entities. But I also strongly support the increase of a councillor in the Wairarapa. I've had quite a bit of experience and involvement, and still have some involvement in the Wairarapa. And there are really some quite significant differences that the councillor representing Wairarapa actually has. There's a significant size in terms of the area is quite significant to the other constituents, and I think that's quite important because councillors have to be working with their communities And in this particular case, they've got 3 territorial local authorities and 3 really principal communities, but also a lot of other smaller communities, not compact like it is in the other constituents. And I think that's a significant difference. The other issue I think that is important, there's a wide range of issues going on in the Wairarapa at the moment, particularly around the 3 waters, but also the Wairarapa has to cope with a lake, some quite significant rivers and streams, and also we have just only, I think 1 or 2 meetings ago, approved some major projects to be done in that area. 14 of the 15 I think that we were approved. And there's going to be a significant workload in there, and I think it makes a lot of sense to actually have that second councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Bassett. Any further discussion? No. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed? No. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Paper is passed. Just Councillor Gaylor and Duthie, just alert me if you want to say anything. I haven't always got my eye on the screen. Okay. Paper 10 is the adoption of policy on dangerous dams, 2024. Morning, Jack. Right, in your hands.
Morning all, I'm actually here as just the smiling face. Joe Francis is joining us from Masterton to present the paper.
Ah, okay. Joe?
Good morning, councillors. I'm on the train somewhere out of Featherston. The paper has been before you a number of times. It's been out for consultation and discussed at Environment Committee a couple of weeks ago. Changes have been made to the paper to take on comments at that time regarding how we will notify landowners downstream of a potentially dangerous dam. Policies be modified to reflect that. Take the paper as read and ask any questions.
Okay. Any questions, Councillor Duffy?
Kia ora koutou. I'd just like to say thanks to Joe for the work and for that addition to paragraph 13, I think it is, in terms of notifying people downstream. And also to reiterate thanks for the sole submitter on the policy, which was valuable to get that input from outside our organisation to complement the expertise of our staff. So my question is really just a giant piece of thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? In that case, Councillor Duthie, would you like to move the paper?
Can do.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for this? Councillor Saw. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed? No. Paper passed. Thanks, Jack. Sometimes the speed of these agreements belies the amount of work that goes into the papers, I'm afraid. Wetlands policy, updates to the natural resources plan, paper 11.
Kia ora koutou. We're presenting to this paper online as we're in the Wairarapa here today. What we wanted to get across from this paper is there was direction in the NPSFM to make a direct policy change into a natural resources plan in relation to wetlands. This is us informing the council about the fact that we're making this change. We'll take the paper as read and happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions in relation to this issue? No questions, Fatima. Thank you very much. You're a star. Moving on. Paper 12. Regional Pest Management Plan, Operational Plan for 2024-25. Oh, it's like Jack in the Box, isn't it?
Unless you didn't say hi, Jack. So this paper is just presenting to council our operational plan to give effect to the Regional Pest Management Plan. Under the Act, council have the ability to disallow that plan within 20 working days in writing. So beyond that, I'll take the paper as read.
Okay, councillors, any questions? No questions from you, Councillor Duthie? This was your... No? No questions. Okay, no questions. Jack, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian.
Right, due dates and penalty dates for regional rates. Carterton District Council. Yeah, sure.
Apologies. Ken, who's presenting the paper, is just on his way here, but I can make a start. This is to do with Carterton District Council having delays with their LTP adoption, and consequently, what it means is with the rates that they set for Great Wellington as well. One implication is from the traditional 4 installments in a year, they have come down to 3. And what it means from a Greater Wellington Council perspective is while the total rates collection has no impact, the number of installments is reduced, but we have checked with our legal counsel, Simpson Grierson, and they have said that it is okay and there should not be any financial impact from Greater Wellington's perspective. The other thing that we would also need to do is we would have to do like a public notice of 14 days to ensure that our rates resolution is also aligned, and we've got a new rates resolution set for Greater Wellington Regional Council. So those are the 2 key impacts from our perspective. I'll take the paper as read, and I'm happy to take any questions from the council.
Councillor Saw.
Thank you for this. Just 2 very simple questions. One, have Greater Wellington ever encountered this instance before? If so, what do we do? What happened? I'm sure it'll be fine. And my second question is sort of picking up on the point we had about communicating this clearly to the community. Are there any risks of reducing the number of installments, because then that makes the bill higher, and so there might, when you spread it over four installments, it's a little bit easier to swallow the bill, but with having fewer, that means the number's bigger. Have we sort of looked at the risks around that and some of the communications we might have to have with the community? That's all.
I'll answer the first question. So has this ever happened again through your chair? No, this has never happened before. And usually we have got a regular meetings that we have with our rates counterparts and all the TAs, not just Carterton. And we always try to align all our dates together. At most, the one anomaly that we have seen in the past is when they set their due dates on a weekend. Because under legislation, if the due dates falls on a weekend, then you need to pay on the next working day. But that is something that we have all been okay with, and traditionally all of the TAs tend to follow that. In this particular instance, with Carterton, the due dates were set on a weekend, and at the council meeting that they had, the councillors decided to shift it by a day to a weekday. So that's the only anomaly that we have ever come across in our experience. Yeah. Oh, sorry, in Upper Hutt's case, so not in Carterton, but in the case of Upper Hutt, that's the only anomaly we have encountered where they have shifted it by 1 day. But apart from that, we have never had such issues where the dates don't align. In terms of the second question, I'll let Ken answer that one.
I guess we personally haven't done, the analysis around the impacts of instalment dates. I know Carterton definitely took that into consideration as part of their process this time. But probably the other thing to bear in mind is the instalment dates are there for our purposes and legislative requirements. It is becoming more and more common these days that people don't pay in those instalment blocks. By creating, the debits, set up the debit accounts, weekly payments, monthly payments, people are able to, pay it on a frequent basis that suits them rather than doing the one hit installment. Does that answer that question?
I guess I'll just ask the obvious question. Does this have any impact on you, Adrian, if, with the change of instalments and this particular issue?
No.
Councillor Staples.
To turn this into a question, so I don't get told off, are you aware that the feedback from staff at Carterton Council is that Greater Wellington staff have been absolutely amazing and the most helpful they could have been in this matter?
I was not aware, no, but that's great.
Take it from me.
So I almost don't want to ask this question because I sort of don't want to know what the answer is, but the paper delicately doesn't deal with the circumstances that led to the delay that means that the annual plan wasn't done in time and therefore would have avoided this question. Is this really a unique set of circumstances for Carterton? I suppose what I'm asking is there something systemic here that means that we might be in the same situation next year that we need to be working with them to fix, or is this just a unique set of circumstances?
Through Chair, it is a unique set of circumstances. It's actually a combination of different things. So our conversation with Carterton, what they've informed us is it's a combination of delays in their hearings and deliberations on the long-term plan, delays to do with their new financial system that they installed and giving the comfort to auditors, leading to audit delays. I think those are the two main things. Anything else you can recall?
I was just going to add, you may also recall last year all the processes that we went through, the Three Waters reform and all the upset across the country with councils and having to, work around what they were doing with the Three Waters. There was a bit of a heads up late last year, early this year, that some councils around the country may struggle to adopt their LTPs on time. So it was sort of something in the back of our minds that this was a possibility this year. I think we were just quite fortunate that the majority of councils around the country actually succeeded with the process.
Okay, cool, thank you. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this? Councillor Staples, seconded by Councillor Bassett. Either of you wish to speak to this? No. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Paper passed. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Final statements of intent for 2024-25. This is paper number 14 in your order paper. Sarah, hi.
Kia ora koutou. So the purpose of this paper is to advise you on the final statements of intent 24-25 year. The feedback previously provided by Council had been addressed in those documents, and there are no further changes to the paper, so happy to take any questions.
Okay, are there any questions on this? Councillor Nash?
Thanks, Sarah. Looks really good. All fine from my perspective. Just a question about the Wellington NZ one, and where it's page 176 in Diligent, page 14 of their statement, and it says promotion of public transport. Is that in there because we asked for them to put it in there, or is that always in their standard thing?
I can't recall if that we did ask for that, and that feedback had been previously provided.
Yeah.
And within all their website for all their trails, etc., at the bottom of every page is how to get there, and includes the promotion of public transport wherever possible.
Yep, it's cool because Darren, our chair, was saying there's been some conversations about how we could have some like public transport led kind of brochures about take the bus to this thing or take the train to this thing. And I mean we've been working on it, so I think it's going to happen, but rather than just organising activities and events with a little bit at the bottom saying how to get there by public transport, it's kind of the other way around, flipping it around saying take the train to this activity. So it would be cool to work with Wellington NZ on that as well. But anyway, yep, this is all good. Great stuff.
Okay, do I If there are no other questions, do I have a mover and a seconder for this? Councillor Kirk-Bernand, seconded by Councillor Nash. Either of you wish to speak to this? No? All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed? No. Thank you. Paper passed. Adoption of the 2025 meeting schedule, paper number 15 it's on page 226 of my papers. Lucas, how are you? Take us through it date by date.
That might take a while. Cool. There have been no changes since the report was written. You do need to note that the schedule is only until the 10th of October due to the elections next year. The new council will then adopt its schedule for the rest of the year and then 2026 after that. The Holdings Board, the Whitireia Park Board, and the two joint committees that we administer will also be adopting their own individual schedules. And in developing the schedule, I did discuss with the committee leads, so that all mostly happy with it, or I think they are all happy with it. The schedule was then provided to ELT, and again, no changes from them, and then again to the committee chairs, and again, no changes. January and July have been kept clear of meetings, particularly for July. We've made an effort to keep at least 4 weeks fully clear. There are 2 workshops in the final week of July, though. That's all from me. I'm happy to take questions.
Okay. Question from me. Those 2 workshops in July, and I see the Wellington Water Committee has also got a meeting in July as well, despite having been told every bloody time that they should keep the July period free. So how do we move at least the 2 workshops if we were wanting to do that? Once they're set here, they're not necessarily in concrete as such. We can move them, but it is desirable to stick with what we've got.
Yeah, so I'll start with Wellington Water. So we have reached out to Wellington Water after you and Councillor Connolly have requested that. Their feedback was that they have already adopted their schedule, so they cannot change it. I did ask that they consider not scheduling anything in July for 2026. Regarding the 2 workshops in July, just the way that the meeting schedule has fallen because of the election has meant that we have had to push into July to start off that meeting cycle. One of the recommendations is to authorise the head of governance and democracy to change the schedule as and when required.
So I'm personally comfortable with that. The fact that we've got 2 in July isn't the end of the world. We can move them if we need to, but we can cross that bridge next year.
Yeah, and you've got 4 full weeks as well in July, starting from the 30th of June.
So do we have a mover and a seconder for this paper? Councillor Saw and Councillor Ropata. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Excellent. Paper passed. Finance updates year ended 30th of June 2024, paper 16.
Thank you, Chair.
Sure. Yep.
This paper presents the financial results for the council for the 12 months ended June 2024. The council has an operating deficit of 15 million for the year, and this is quite close to the last forecast that we had presented to the council in June. Please note that this is an accounting deficit, not a cash or a funding deficit. The key drivers for the revenue and expenditure variance to budget are outlined on page 234 and 235 of the report. The total rates collection, including penalties, is higher than budget. 1 million of this relates to PT rates, and we have decided to, in a way, prudently take it to the PT reserves for use in future years. In terms of our total capital spend, 80% of it we have achieved, mainly due to accelerated water-related projects. The financial results are unaudited, and we are hoping that audits are through by the end of October, and we adopt the annual report by then as well. I'll take the paper as read and happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions, councillors? I think this has been chewed over in a number of other committees as well. Okay, it's for information only, so we'll move on. Sorry, yeah, cool. Paper 17, thanks, Ash. Regional deals, lessons from the United Kingdom. That's me. In June this year, well, earlier than June, you agreed to me going with an Infrastructure New Zealand a delegation to the UK to look at regional deals, three waters, and public transport in the UK, particularly focused on Manchester and Cardiff as two of the poster child regional deal areas in the UK. I think the thing I wanted to say to start with was a really professional and well put together itinerary by Infrastructure New Zealand. Not a single bum speaker. Some that are less relevant to us and to what we do, but they were all on point for their audiences. In relation to insights, I think the key issues for me were the reflection that in the UK, this focus on regional deals comes in large part because of the primacy of London as a sort of super city, if you like, to the point that they had then, and they still do under the incoming administration, a ministry for levelling up. Ministry for Levelling Up sounds very Harry Potter, but effectively it is to rebalance the UK because London effectively sucks the oxygen out of the rest of the country. So it's a hugely wealthy city. It's got really beneficial public transport and social services and what have you that many other parts of the country fail to receive. So the reason for going to Manchester was to look at the work that they had done, particularly around public transport and urban regeneration. In the public transport space, a reminder to me at least was that the UK had taken a much more extreme turn than we had even taken in the 1990s by privatising public transport here. They doubled down, and they had effectively gutted most of any public transport coordination, even by the by regions, or certainly by the federal state, to the point where everything was now up for competition by private sector operators and had started to significantly fall apart. In the Manchester situation, they had worked with the government to get government support and government coordination to effectively rebuild the public transport network in the Greater Manchester area. The starting point for that was the formation of the Greater Manchester Council. There are 10 councils, 10 territorial authorities in the Greater Manchester area. They were untouched. But over the top of that, they created this umbrella council, which is represented by the mayors from each of the territorial authorities, and then the Greater Manchester Mayor is elected at large. So he's the only person who's elected onto the board. The rest are appointed from the territorial authorities. That was more than 15 years ago. But to come back to the public transport stuff, they have created effectively a new network called the B network. The B network, BEE, is a reference to I suppose an iconic reference to Mancunians as bees, as worker bees. It's something that Mancunians seem to have a real resonance with. So wouldn't you know it, the network is yellow. Buses and trams, and increasingly there will be regional trains in the network as well. So a real lesson about how a super local authority has managed to coordinate with central government, with territorial authorities to rebuild a network. A more extreme example than we probably will ever face in our region, and I actually walked away from those particular conversations reasonably comfortable in terms of where we were at, certainly within our region. One of the things that we're able to see on the Manchester network, and certainly in and around London, was the integrated ticketing system that we will be bringing online here within 2 years. In fact, the same background technology that we will be using here. The other aspect of Manchester was urban regeneration. So went to Manchester City Football Club, not to watch a game, but really to see how that whole area had been redeveloped from factories that had seen their heyday in the 1950s and had massively declined to an industrial wasteland since then. So this is, I suppose I'd never really considered it. It's the industrial heartland of the UK. When you talk about the Industrial Revolution, it is that sort of area through Liverpool to Manchester down to Bristol, not solely, but a significant area. That significant area was critical to the Industrial Revolution, and in the 1950s it fell flat on its face. And so here was a city that had picked itself up by the bootstraps and reinvented itself with new industry and endeavour and research, science and technology. And in the inner city area there was now quite a significant gentrification and remoulding of former factory buildings and industrial sites into urban development, apartments, etc., etc. Still quite a grimy sort of city on its outlook. It's difficult to get away from that sort of rather confronting industrial makeup that it has, but you can see how the population is shining through that in terms of what they're doing. There's a lot more to say about regional deals. We have last week, and I think you will have seen an email from the Minister, along with Minister of Local Government, along with a report on the regional deals framework. It's good that the government has turned a corner on this in terms of actually having a framework in place. The thing I suppose I have to say is that the Wellington region won't be the first cab off the rank in relation to regional deals. It won't even be the fifth cab off the rank. We're somewhere further down the order. Political decisions have been made about who will be offered a regional deal, and it's more than likely that it falls into some order that includes Northland, Auckland, Eastern Bay, Western Bay District Councils, West Coast region, and something in and around Queenstown, Wakatipu Basin. There will undoubtedly be sort of political reasons for that. It's not altogether surprising, but what it does mean for us is that we don't need to take our foot off the pedal in terms of what we think regional deals may be. I think as a region we can still put our best foot forward around housing, connectivity, etc. And the WRLC will continue to sort of bear down on that and put propositions in front of the government. Councillor Staples.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the report. Always good to see something positive coming out of trips like this. My question is, when I had a look at Greater Manchester, it's got a population of 2,812,000 people, which is sort of like 2/3 of New Zealand. Can you see some of the things that you saw over there being able to be scaled down to be so that lessons learnt can actually be used here, even though they're much greater scale over in the UK?
Yeah, fair point. I must say I found Cardiff a more manageable scale in my mind. So a capital region area that was much more in the size of us, but smaller geographically. Manchester was perhaps a little bit confronting in that regard, but not when it came to the public transport issues. I felt that that the things that they had done there were the things that we had already done or had never lost sight of. The fact that we have an integrated public transport network, they're only just getting to. So regional trains don't speak to buses in quite the same way that they do here. It's not a fully integrated network yet, but they are moving in that direction. Some of the things that were being done at a much bigger scale were urban regeneration. I mean, it's whole precincts, ex-university areas that are being redeveloped for science and technology and new industrial development, whole housing or warehouse blocks and what have you. I mean, streets and streets of them that are being redeveloped for urban generation, regeneration, etc. It is on a scale that is confronting, but really at the heart of that is a question about whether we have the tools to be able to do things at our scale in the same way. And I think with some of the law changes that have come through in the last 3 years in relation to repackaging urban areas within our own area, we have many of the tools that they already have. Yeah, so and it's a fair question because it is a much larger population, but in a much more concentrated area. Right. Just conscious of Ken's stomach. Do a resolution and then might pass a resolution, and then are you okay, Ken, if we go to So resolution to exclude the public. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Bassett and Councillor Kirkbanand. All those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, no. Okay, we will take a break for morning tea, and then we've got 4 items.